Hi, everyone. This is Brandon from Tuta, and today I am happy to welcome Alex from the Free Software Foundation Europe to today's chat about free and open source software and why it's important for your privacy. At Tuta, we are forerunners in communication by offering quantum safe encryption for emails, calendars, and what's crucial to us is that we publish all of this code open source, that it is freely visible and can be audited by everyone to ensure that it's transparent and you can authenticate that what we are building is secure. We want to build a better web, and the Free Software Foundation of Europe is also on board with this mission. But enough about this. Let's dive into the interview. Alex, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. First of all, thanks a lot for having me. My name is Alexander Sander. I'm the EU policy consultant of the Free Software Foundation Europe, which is a charity that empowers users to control technology. And yeah, as the name says, we do believe that this is done with the help of free software and the four freedoms of free software to use, study, share, and improve the code.
Mhm.
And yeah, this also helps to protect fundamental rights like the right to privacy, but it also helps to yeah, to do research, to help society, to communicate. So there are a lot of advantages when we talk about free software, protecting fundamental rights, but also helping economy. And yeah, that's why I think we came together today
Mhm.
to discuss a bit like the yeah, funding, which is under pressure for free software in the European Union,
Mhm.
which is a big topic we work on when it comes to policy, but maybe also to quickly introduce the FSFE a bit more, we
Yeah.
also work on legal topics. So, for example, at the moment we are around case on Apple litigation, where we want to make sure that, for example, other app stores can be on the phones of Apple devices, but all other devices
Right.
too. So there's a court case where we are around. Also, we yeah, try to bring in more teenagers and also women into free software and tech. So our president Matthias Kirchner wrote a book, Adan Sangeman, which is like for pretty young, like basically kids.
Mhm.
So it's a kid story, which is pretty nice. And then next we have the Youth Hacking for Freedom contest, where we
Mhm.
yeah, invite people from Europe to take part in the contest. So so we are legal, we are around teenager topics, but we also work on politics.
Mhm.
And this is basically where I'm active in this politics field, where we try yeah, to push member states of the European Union itself, but also other countries in the in Europe to come up with yeah, free software politics
Mhm.
and policies that help the ecosystem.
Right. And so it's going through and promoting these like these different free softwares. That's everything from different like utility suites, but also operating systems, right? So trying to pull away from it's like for one example could be like Microsoft's dominance with in enterprise ITs. Everyone is running like Windows enterprise environments. So like what you guys are trying to do is also promote like these free and open source alternatives to that, right?
Absolutely. So we have a dedicated campaign which is called Public Money, Public Code.
Hmm.
This is where we ask public administrations, governments, bodies, whenever they procure or whenever they come up with own software, it should be released under a free software license.
Hmm.
And so this is definitely one of our core demands, where we yeah, try to yeah, help governments, public bodies to migrate away from most of the times it is big tech,
Hmm.
but from vendor logins to
Yeah.
free software solutions. And it's not only good for governments. I
Hmm.
mean, they will save money on the long run. They are not in this vendor logins anymore, stuff like this. But it also helps citizens, right? So
Yeah.
because we want to communicate with administrations, administrations are there for citizens, right? So they are
Right.
not there for themselves. They are there to communicate with us.
Yeah.
And I think we have seen this, for example, in the Corona crisis, right? That we want to have transparency. We want to see how they handle our data. We want to see how they work together cross-border, how interoperability works.
Hmm.
And we have seen that transparency, which we have with the open source licenses, help a lot, right? So that we can see our fundamental rights protected, for example, if
Hmm.
we start communication. And also, if governments use these solutions, then they become better and better by the time, and this is then also like it could be reused by citizens if they want to protect their communication and stuff like this. So that's why
Mhm.
we do believe that it's yeah, it's definitely needed that governments, public bodies alike switch to the public money, public code principle
Mhm.
and invest into the free software ecosystem by procuring free software.
Mhm. So like, and that's not just focused at like when people think of government, so like DMV offices or larger government offices. That's also something that you guys are kind of working towards with getting schools to adopt more free software as well, right? Is also like with the
Absolutely. I
protection of
mean,
privacy.
Absolutely. So, like governmental bodies, administrations, right?
Hmm.
It could be everything from the library next door,
Yeah.
from your like hospital, all of this public infrastructure, if you like,
Hmm.
right? And here, I mean, also just recently, we have seen again what happens if, for example, hospitals rely on software that they can't control,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
and this happens over and over again. Even airplanes couldn't start and land
Hmm.
anymore. So we see we need to control our own technology. So
Hmm.
it's in the core of our digital infrastructure, starting at schools, hospitals, airports, but also like if you go to high governmental, I don't know, external relations
Hmm.
management, you have ministries that want to secure their communication, right? So we have military that wants to secure their communication, and it all comes back to you need to control your own technology, and that could only be done if you have like the four freedoms to use, study, share, and control your software. And by that, you always end up with free and open source software solutions in the end.
Hmm. Absolutely. So like what we're talking about here then, there's this discussion of we can go through, we have these free software options that can be rolled out at a government level. And when you kind of introduced the Free Software Foundation, you were also talking about, you brought up there are the potential of funding cuts from the EU Commission. Um, that isn't quite clicking in my head because it seems like by funding the Free Software Foundation in Europe, you would actually be saving money because with free software, it's going to come a lot cheaper than going through and rolling out proprietary software, right? Do you want to dive a little bit into what's going on there with this discussion within the EU Commission?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the thing is, we have we have different and large fundings in the European Union to
Hmm.
support economies, but also to like come up with solutions that help citizens and governments alike.
Yeah.
Part of this is the called Horizon Europe,
Hmm.
or in the past it was Horizon. So it's the framework research program of the European Union. It's now in its eighth term. Before it was Horizon whatever, and now it's called Horizon Europe. And
Okay.
part of this Horizon Europe is that we have 27 million euros. That's not really a lot. That goes into like the core of free software products
Hmm.
that are used by EU institutions, but also citizens alike, that are very important and that basically lack funding or that lack a specific security options or specific features that the EU helps to come up with.
Yeah.
So they make software more secure. They look where there are bug reports, for example, invest in those, and by
Hmm.
thus making software for all of us more secure.
Yeah.
And that's why this funding, even if it's just 27 millions, is very important. And it was handled by NLNet, so to say, another foundation, and they checked out which are important projects at the moment, where do we need to invest small bits in order to make them
Hmm.
more secure for like or European citizens. Let's
Hmm.
put it like this. The problem is that this funding is maintained by the European Commission, so to say, and also it's as it is the Horizon Europe. It's there for the future, for research,
Hmm.
for yeah, whatever we need in the next decade, so to say.
Hmm.
So it's not basically there to maintain the present, it's for the future. And
Right.
that's a big problem of the idea of this funding, because it always goes around research, it always goes around the future, but nobody talks about today. So
Hmm.
and that's uh, that's a general problem we see. So that's why we are asking for a general, sustainable, long-term funding for free software projects
Hmm.
that lack funding in general. You know, it's not always a company behind free software
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah.
Sometimes we rely on things like Log4j,
Hmm.
and they need support, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is something where I think governments should help. And
Hmm.
that's why we are asking the European Commission to come up with these funds.
Hmm.
And we also ask to remove them from this Horizon Europe and come up with something generally
Okay.
fundamental for the next decades, which is not related to research, which is not related to the future, and
Hmm.
which has a own dedicated budget, which could not be removed that easily as
Hmm.
we see it now with the European Commission doing it in the horizon, right? So it
Hmm.
was a decision by the Commission, maybe together with the member states, and they can easily cut it. So
Okay.
there's not a discussion with the parliament, there's not a discussion with the public.
Hmm.
And that's why we criticize this. And we want to have something which is more secured in a way that it could not just be the commission saying, look, we cut the funding from one day to another. We
Right.
want to have this sustainable part. And also, we want to have it more long term, that we can rely on this and that we can say, look, even if we have this problem in 3 years, we can still fix it in 3 years. We
Yeah.
will have the funds. And also, they don't have to be like billions of euros, right? Again, we are talking about things like Log4j, or we talk about communities that need help.
Yeah.
And so it's not like that we want to come up with a funding that goes to, I don't know, the Microsoft or Google open source strings attached to do something in
Hmm.
their, I don't know, pet or cloud environment. It goes really to the core, which where basically free software relies on. So this is
Hmm.
what we ask for funding, and a funding that helps basically economy, but citizen and governments alike.
Hmm.
And so this is also why we do believe that this funding then needs some oversight. So it should again not be public bodies, for example, deciding on where the money goes. There needs to be a strong community voice in this that looks out. So look, this project is important for, like, yeah, the core of our digital infrastructure. We
Hmm.
should invest in this, and it should not be like governments looking at this, like, look, we want to invest in this or this. So we need
Hmm.
a strong community voice in this, like we had with internet in the past. So that's a good structure, I think. But we also need to move it out of Horizon, and that's why we asked for moving it into Digital Europe.
Hmm.
So that's a funding, or that's a political, let's say, umbrella where all the digital topics are addressed.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, they do not talk too much about open source, and that's something we want to change in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, especially you bring up like the example of Log4j. I mean, with the security incident facing that, it seems pretty pressing, not, I mean, at all levels of government, but also in people's personal lives, companies as well. These really like kind of building blocks that even big companies, not just open source program or platforms, are using, they're all built upon free software. So trying to pull the rug out from under that doesn't seem like a very safe idea, because finding bugs in these core platforms is crucial. Otherwise, we're all kind of in a position of less security, right?
And the main problem is, if we stop funding today, we
Hmm.
will face these problems in like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So, and then we can't go back. So, and
Hmm.
that's why we are so loud at the same time at the
Yeah.
moment, because we really do believe that we shouldn't stop this funding. So for the very short term, we need to get these 27 million euros back, but
Hmm.
then we need to use this opportunity to talk about, we need a sustainable long-term funding. So it
Hmm.
can't be that we say, like, there's 1 year IT security and the next year there's no IT security,
Yeah.
right? So this won't work out. So we need to
Hmm.
continuously monitor and invest in this. And this doesn't mean that we need to, like, invest billions of euros, and it
Hmm.
doesn't mean that we want to invest like in car or oil industry, right, where we
Yeah.
put out billions of euros to maintain an old economy. No,
Hmm.
we want to invest a few million euros in
Hmm.
an emergent technology that we all rely on, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's a huge difference in this. And if we invest 20 million euros in the, like, core of our digital infrastructure, the return of this investment is immense. We can't
Hmm.
even calculate it, right? So, and this is also something we need to see. I mean, you addressed the point of that we also say, like, mid and long term, we can save money and save taxpayers' money if
Yeah.
we invest in free software. That's true, but it's only true if we get rid of our vendor logins that we have today.
Hmm.
And this means we have to invest today in free software to save money tomorrow. So, and these investments we are talking about, it's again, it's not billions of euros. So it's just like taking parts of what we are investing in proprietary software, moving it into free software that we can save money tomorrow. So, and it's really not that we talk tomorrow is not like decades away. It's really pretty much tomorrow, right? So
Yeah.
it's like if we start investing in free software today, we can immediately use it. There are no licenses that restrict us. We can also like have software that is tailored to our needs. It's
Hmm.
tailored to the needs of the one who procured, right? So you can say, I want this, this, and this, and this, and you are not procuring a business one vendor's business model, right? So
Hmm.
you're not buying what Microsoft has and then you have to live with it.
Hmm.
Uh, a pretty crazy example, to in my honest opinion, is for example translations, right? So there is
Yeah.
not a version of Windows in Icelandic. It's simply not there. But the people from Iceland went to Microsoft and look, we want to translate it. We want to have it in, in our own language.
Hmm.
But they said, no, license forbid it. You have to go with the English version or
Crazy.
another
Yeah.
language version, right? Yeah. So, and this is like, just imagine with free software, just go there. They had the translation already in place and they said, we want to do it on our own. It's just, we want to do this, right?
Hmm.
So, and with free software, you can do this. You can just proceed. And I think this is a good example how even governments run into vendor logins of big tech that are absolutely not needed, right? So you can
Hmm.
just go out on the market. You can say, look, there are good Linux operation systems out there, and there are good office environments out there. Let's put them all together and invest in this environment instead
Hmm.
of like giving money to licenses that end up somewhere in Ireland, and we
Hmm.
don't even collect taxes for this.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's one thing that's interesting to see this this push, like that tax revenue isn't even coming in from like from these licenses, these Microsoft licenses, for example. Like that's there is this
Yeah.
funding question here. So where did this idea come from that of all the things that should be cut, have their funding cut, why did what was going on in this decision making process? Does this come from a kind of a wider misunderstanding of what free software is, or is this also a decision that's being lobbied by different companies?
So, well, again, I think it's because of the nature of this horizon thing. So, as it is for research and the future, you see that people talk a lot about AI at the moment,
Right.
and for them, it is the future, and research needs to be around AI.
Hmm.
So, and that's why they move in this direction. So, it's not like that I want to defend the commission on this part,
Hmm.
but it's a logical decision for them to go in this direction. So, and that's why we need to remove it out of this. It's not so. I mean, free software is always research, no question. But in this specific part, in this funding,
Hmm.
we are talking about different research, right? It's about drones to protect borders. It's about coming up with, I don't know, do you use technologies in these days? So,
Hmm.
and I don't want to have free software around this, right? So, free software is about having a secure infrastructure, for example, right?
Hmm.
So, and for this we need free software. It's something fundamental. So, and that's why we also need a fundamental grant for this. Um, so I do believe this decision was made out of a like it was the funding was put in the wrong like ecosystem, and that's why they took this decision.
Okay.
However, you are also completely right when it comes to lobbying. So, for example, we have seen this in the Cyber Resilience Act, for example. We see this in other files when it comes to the Interoperable Europe Act, for example, right, where we talk about how do we provide technical interoperability. And I ask myself all the time, how do you want to do this without free software? There
Hmm.
is no interoperability if you don't work with open standards and free software.
Yeah.
It's simply impossible, right? And why don't you talk about this? So, and this is where we see this lobbying, right? So, and there's definitely there are the Microsofts, the Oracles, the Googles, and they are around, and they definitely fear that we, um, shift governments away from these vendor logins and bring them to
Hmm.
the free software ecosystem.
Hmm.
In like terms of numbers, we know that around 27% of the revenue of software firms is made by governments.
Okay.
So just imagine if we move this money into free
Mhm.
software, and if we do this step by step, it already changes a lot. So, and
Mhm.
this is actually what lobbyists fear, and this is where they also, this is something we see more often, that they come up with something we call open washing. So
Okay.
they try to undermine the licenses we have, with saying, like, for example, open source is if the code is transparent. So this is still open source
Mm.
for them.
Okay.
So this is how they try to attack the term. This is how they
Mhm.
still want to try to sell their products, even if they are not
Mhm.
open source. And this is definitely something we see, and where we also try to shed light on, and where we try to discuss this. We are
Mhm.
also around in topics like procurement rules.
Mhm.
So this is something which is a very important but niche fight, so to say, right?
Okay.
So if you basically lobby procurement rules, you lobby a lot. Think again of these 27% I just mentioned, right?
Mhm.
So, and these are where the big fights are happening. They are not
Mhm.
happening around these 27 millions for
Yeah.
supporting the two people working on Log4j. This is a fight. This is a fight where I do believe this needs to be done by organizations like ours, right? So by
Mhm.
the Free Software Foundation Europe. You won't see the Googles, GitHubs, and Microsoft fighting for this budget, right?
Mhm.
You will see them fighting for procurement. You will see them fighting for open washing, if you want,
Mhm.
if you like, right? So these are their fights. Um, it's not that there are so many people around this funding. However, we also see that there are also companies that see, look, we also rely on this Log4j thing.
Yeah.
Let's
Yep.
get some funding done for them.
Mhm.
And so this is also, I mean, I do believe a certain amount of this money should come from governments,
Mhm.
for sure, but also I do believe a certain amount of this money should come from companies.
Mhm.
And that's another fight we just like fight, so that we also ask them to invest in these Log4j files, for example.
Yeah.
And this is super interesting as we discuss currently the Cyber Resilience Act and the implementation of the Cyber Resilience Act, where we have specific rules on how manufacturers need to communicate with these kind of communities in order to come up with secure software.
Mhm.
And this also shows that there is like um, a problem in power, and problem how manufacturers talk to these communities and how they
Mhm.
see these communities. And this is also, I think, where we need to need to shed light on, and where we need to help that manufacturers don't behave like, you need to do this for me, right?
Mhm.
So it's the other way around, right? You need to help them, that they help you, right? So,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of like, how do you communicate with communities? What can you expect from your communities? And in general, these communities out there, everyone wants to have secure software. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to find bugs in their software.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
are very happy to help you, but they are not like, it's not like that these communities work for Google, or that these communities work for Microsoft or big tech, right? So they work for their own.
Yeah.
If you are using free software, which is absolutely fine, you need to support them in return.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a thing that I find so interesting with a lot of like these big tech companies. They're building on these tools. They use these tools so they can generate massive profits. So it seems a little kind of shameful if you're not going to give back to the community that you're building these giant products on.
Yeah, true. Absolutely true. And we are discussing this also in public talks. We are discussing some like ideas that could work out. I mean, we see different funds in Germany. We have the Sovereign Tech Fund, for example, which is trying to make software more secure, where we see this funding is coming from governments, taxpayers' money.
Hmm.
In the US, we have funds that are more coming out of private money. Ultimately, I do believe we need both, right? So we need to make the government think about their own infrastructure and invest in this infrastructure, but we
Hmm.
also need to make sure that big tech or companies in general that use free software also
Yeah.
contribute back.
Hmm.
This could be money, this could be code, this
Hmm.
could be education, right? So there are many ways how you can give back. And some ideas could be you give back 1% of your global revenue, or you give back 1% of what you earn with this tool, if you like. Also, we are thinking of something like something comparable to a Nutri score, right? Where you can
Hmm.
say, look, this company is red, yellow, or green in terms of giving back. So there are a couple of ideas out there that we present, and where we try to also push companies to
Hmm.
give back to the open source ecosystem, and they also rely on this. So,
Yeah.
and this is again something where we also need to make sure they understand what they are doing. So often companies, in particular when you talk about banking or insurances, they just grab the tools,
Hmm.
put it in the ecosystem, and go ahead. So also car industry is collaborating a lot on around open source projects in the meantime. So we see also more and more industry players that have in the first place nothing to do with digital,
Hmm.
using a lot of free software tools. It's not only the Googles, Microsoft, and
Hmm.
Oracles of the world using Linux kernels. It's pretty
Yeah.
much everyone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's something we need to also show the world, right? We all, in the meantime, we rely on this, and
Hmm.
that's why we need to invest. We need to invest in our infrastructure. Everyone sees a street which is broken, would say, "Look, we need to fix the street."
Hmm.
In digital, it's different. We don't see the bugs, but they are there,
Yeah.
and we need to fix them. So, and
Yeah.
that's important. And free software helps us to see the bugs.
Hmm.
And they also help us to fix them immediately and share it immediately with the world without having to go through some vendors.
Yeah. So, how is this for people listening at home, or maybe they're watching this at work? I don't know. But people listening, what steps can they take in their lives to go ahead and support free software, and also get involved or be loud about reaching out to the EU Commission, possibly to continuing this funding or creating a better space to place this kind of funding for these free software projects?
I mean, first of all, an activity you could do until the 20th of September is to take part in a public consultation the European Commission is running at the moment on
Hmm.
specifically this question.
Hmm.
We provided a blog post for this where we show how we answered this. We give some insights how you can go through the survey, how you can feedback to this. And it's particularly important if, like everyone who's listening today, take part. This could be a company, this could be an individual, that could be an NGO, that could be a foundation, whatever you are, you can say researchers, university alike, right? So everyone is welcome to take part in this consultation. You don't even have to come from Europe. I can tell you the Googles, GitHubs, the Microsoft and Oracles also take part in these kind of consultations, and we have to balance this.
Hmm.
So, and the more people that take part in this consultation and stand up for free software funding, the more it helps us in future debates.
Hmm.
So it won't change anything from one day to another, but it helps if we can say, look, we are backed with the opinions of hundreds of European citizens. We are backed with the ideas of SMEs, of micro enterprises working in this field, right? Like you are working on privacy, and this helps us as citizens, right? So we want to have tools out that are run by companies that help us.
Hmm.
So, and if you take part as a company and say, look, we do believe that this needs funding,
Hmm.
this helps us. So, and this consultation, so we came up with this message a few days ago. Already now, hundreds, I think it's 250 citizens took part. And the more that are taking part, the more it helps us in the future debate
Hmm.
to balance our voice against the Googles and Microsofts.
Hmm.
So, and that's why it's very important to take part in this consultation. It will take around 15 to 20 minutes, depending on
Hmm.
yeah, how detailed you answered. You can also invest more time, but for normally it takes like 15 minutes to take part, and it will change a lot. So it will help us in the future debate to raise this point, to raise awareness about this, and to keep this discussion. And this also means other this very short-term activity, always talk about the benefits of free software. Always talk about the four freedoms that you can use, study, share, and improve the software. Tell people about the advantages. If you run into decision makers, tell them about it. So it's really, really important that there is like a constant level of noise around free software.
Yeah.
Um, you need to imagine on the other side, we have professional lobbyists. They are paid, it's their daily job to knock doors and to promote their tools. It's a
Mhm.
marketing tool, what they are doing. And on the other hand, we have in Europe, we have this one free software lobbyist coming from the Free Software Foundation Europe trying to balance this, right?
Mhm.
So this also means send people to Brussels, send people to decision makers. If there is an election upcoming, send people to the party booth and address this.
Mhm.
So the more we bring the topic into parties, the more we bring the topic to decision makers, the
Mhm.
more they think and talk about it. And that's definitely that's happening, and we can see this. I mean, 10 years ago, nobody was actually talking about free software.
Right.
Now we are talking about digital sovereignty, and we understand
Mhm.
that digital sovereignty is not only that the chip is coming from the EU, but that there is software running on this chip, and that we also need to control the software. So we need to control hardware and software alike. And
Mhm.
if we talk about software, it's clearly that we end up with free software when we talk about sovereignty, resilience, control,
Yeah.
security. And this is something we need to we should never stop talking about
Mhm.
doing something like this what we are doing today,
Yeah.
right? Trying to spread the good thing.
Mhm.
So this is really, really needed, and the more we talk about it, the better it is. And always expect that the other side never heard of it, or that they also hear a lot of other things, right?
Mhm.
So it's definitely that the Microsofts running around there until their products are good for European sovereignty.
Mhm.
So, and we need to counter this. That's the thing. The Oracles do the same. The Googles do the same. It's clearly they want to sell their product. It's understandable that they
Yeah.
do this, but we need to balance this. And this could also be done if you don't have time by like yeah, coming a supporter of the Free Software Foundation Europe, for example.
Mhm.
We have more than 1,000 people giving us like 5 or 10 euros a month, and this
Mhm.
helps me to go to Brussels and work there, right? So we
Yeah.
can hire people with this. And we need to hire people that do full-time work to promote the core values of free software towards decision makers, to do this on a professional level, to work like a lobbyist, if you like, and advocate for free software in Brussels, to work on these niche topics, to find these consultation, to tell people about this consultation and guide people on how to fill out this consultation. This is all a lot of work. It needs to be done, and this is what we do, and this is where we help, and this is where I think where people can also help is like spread the word, talk about it, talk with your friends about it, talk to
Mhm.
decision makers, and support organizations that do the same.
Yeah. And that's something that we're trying to do as well is anytime there are cases where okay, free software kind of comes under fire, whatever, trying to be loud, not only talking to friends, but also going ahead and promoting this stuff on social media. This is something people are probably sitting there watching this on a phone, right? They can go over to because your the Free Software Foundation Europe is active on social media platforms. They can go ahead and they can retweet these messages, right?
Absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. So you can do tiny steps that just like
Hmm.
cost you a second,
Yeah.
right? So spread what's already out there. Just repeat it,
Yeah.
and you can also invest a lot of time by following everything what we do. You
Hmm.
can come up on our mailing lists. You can take
Hmm.
part. So this is also we have like from 1 second to 10 hours
Yeah.
activities, and also again also 5 euros help us a lot. So even if
Hmm.
you think like my 5 euros doesn't change anything, they change.
Hmm.
If 1,000 people give us 5 euros, it's we can keep our business running, right? So
Yeah.
we can keep our NGO running. We can work on good things. In the beginning, I told you what else we are doing. Also, we do believe that we need to invest in the future generations, right?
Hmm.
So young people today also need to learn very early about free software. That's why we are going there, that we pave
Hmm.
the way for the future. So there are many activities. We have book reading, so we tell people how to read this children book, right? So
Hmm.
um, There are people going out there, being in school classes all over Europe,
Hmm.
reading the book to pupils. So, and
That's
that's
awesome.
nice activities, and it's helping. So it don't always have to be the hard Brussels lobbying
Yeah.
activities, right? So this helps definitely, but maybe you don't like politics, you like, I don't know, education projects.
Hmm.
So, and no matter where you feel comfy, go there and help to spread the message. So there are many ways how you can take part. It don't always have to be policy.
Hmm.
For me, it would definitely help if you take part in this consultation. But if you say, look, this is too boring for me, I want to do some more hands-on stuff,
Hmm.
come to our website, check out what else activities we have. We have pretty hands-on activities. You can help us with booths at conferences or we also, for example, every year we are in Vienna at the Vegemania, so a conference
Hmm.
for vegans. We have a booth
Okay.
because we have a community
Cool.
which likes to be there with a booth. So right, so
Yeah.
there it's just like go and spread the message. So even yeah, so food industry also relies on free software. Just think about it's crazy. The little group
Hmm.
they are now yeah trying to come up with a new system to be active in the online market, and this is
Hmm.
based on free software. There
Yeah.
are so many industries that see that they have values in free software. It's not only tech industry or
Hmm.
pure tech industry, right?
Hmm.
You need free software to maintain your life, if you like.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting you talk about these different sectors. Like I know with agriculture, you can see stories in the news about these problems with vendor lock on tractors or combine
Absolutely.
harvesters. So it's
Yeah,
locking people in where they really can't grow food without without being stuck behind this vendor lock, which is just absurd.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. But it also shows that there is an exit.
Yeah.
We have a solution to all of these problems
Hmm.
already. So we don't have to think about the solution. We
Hmm.
just make use of the solution. That's a good
Yeah.
thing. And that's where we need to work on. So make use of what's already out there, build on it.
Hmm. That's perfect. We will go ahead and we will include links to all of these, to links to where people can fill out the submission or the document,
Consultancy.
the consultation.
Yeah,
We will also go ahead and add links to the website to the Free Software Foundation Europe if anyone is interested in contributing either monetarily or volunteering, getting involved. We will try and amp that. So please, everyone at home who is watching this, follow these, click these links, go ahead, get involved, help spread the word about free software. And Alex, do you want to go ahead and closing words are yours?
that was a pretty good closing, to be honest. So I can't really add to this other than like look for alternatives. So look for products you are
Hmm.
using at the moment that might be proprietary, and look for open source alternatives. There are plenty out there. Today we are talking with one, right? So and also for other things like for communication, but also for your daily business,
Hmm.
there are so many really good free software tools and solutions out there. Make use of them, and also, by becoming a user, you become part of the community, and that's cool. By finding a bug, reporting a bug, for example, it's so easy to become part of this free software community. You don't have to be a techie,
Hmm.
right? So there are so many things you can do to support this. Do this. There will be something you will like in every corner, I'd say, and just support the good thing. And yeah, thanks a lot again for having me. I think that helped a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, everyone at home watching, please go ahead, follow these links, get involved, and support free software. It is important beyond just what you do on your computer. This stuff literally grows your food. Please go ahead and get involved.